The G.U.'s expression was one of unyielding pride. His words were aloof and remote. He didn't seem to think Moon-Hyo was even worth looking at, and spoke to him as he might a servant. Moon-Hyo frowned. However, he thought of the fierceness of the clan, as well as the fear Anzai had shown. He thought about everything he had experienced. All the stories regarding Ji, then he immediately suppressed any feelings of displeasure he felt. Now was not the appropriate time to attack. His cultivation base had reached a critical juncture, the time when the important transformation would occur. Moon-Hyo knew to attack now would affect the growth of his cultivation base. Furthermore, that G.U.'s cultivation base was at the peak of early core formation stage, even higher than the Azure mass cultivator for the Black lands he had thought. Your Excellency, I'm not quite sure what you mean, said Moon-Hyo, looking surprised. I just arrived here myself, and haven't been able to find anything. Don't tell me there's some sort of treasure here. The glow of greed shined in his eyes as he spoke. The G.U.'s eyes glittered as he glanced at Moon-Hyo, an expression of utter disdain covering his face. He looked around, heart still filled with suspicion. This guy's cultivation base is at the Foundation establishment level, he thought. No matter how weak the mortal is, there's no way this guy could penetrate the mortal sense. Plus, he's slumbering. Even I couldn't forcefully break into the mortal sense, not even with the device given to me by the patriarch. So could it have been taken earlier by someone? Within the G.U.'s mind appeared the image of a girl surnamed Fang. He glanced over at Moon-Hyo. Did you encounter anyone on the way here? Whatever it is you say, tell me immediately, he demanded. If you leave out anything, I will wipe out you and your sect and your clan. He made no attempt to cover over his disdain and superciliousness. Moon-Hyo hesitated, then lowered his voice. Someone else? Yes, I did see someone. Actually, wearing a green robe. I couldn't really see clearly which fellow deist it was. This place. Before he could finish, the youth seemed to have made up his mind. He flicked his sleeve impatiently. Screw off, he said. Moon-Hyo's eyes flickered with an impenetrable coolness. However, a cowardly look appeared on his face, and immediately backed up and then turned to leave. It was at that exact moment that suddenly the wall next to him exploded outward, and a person in green emerged. Along with the person came an incredibly potent Kai, which immediately enveloped the entire area. Not only did it contain the power, but the feeling of extreme conceit. As Kai roiled out, the figure emerged slowly, a young woman. This was none other than the surnamed Fang, who was also from the eastern lands. As soon as she appeared, her eyes fell onto the G.U. Moon-Hyo was standing right next to her, but she completely ignored him. The arrogance which emitted from her was virtually palpable. Ji, hold on. Give the immortal scripture to me, said the young woman coldly. She was beautiful and emitted icy arrogance. When he saw the girl appear, Moon-Hyo's heart began to thump, and he backed up a few paces before he could get far away. The G.U.'s eyes narrowed. Fang Yu, it turns out you took the immortal scripture, and still? He only finished half of his thought when his heart suddenly trembled. He abruptly looked at Moon-Hyo, and as he did, he blinked in his right eye 7 times in rapid succession. Suddenly, 2 pupils could be seen within his eyes. They seemed to be some sort of psychic sight. As he looked at Moon-Hyo, he immediately was able to see the white chestnut in Moon-Hyo's danton. In addition to the water chestnut, there was a blurriness. Even the water chestnut by itself was enough to cause killing intent to spring out from the G.U.'s eyes. However, Just as soon as it appeared, it vanished. The speed at which all this happened was such that if you blinked, you wouldn't be able to pick it, even the slightest clue something was happening. Preposterous, said the G youth with a cold laugh. Ignoring Moon Hyo, he immediately shot towards Bang Yu, and as he neared, he waved his right hand, causing the field of stars to appear behind him. Bang Yu gave a cold snort and also advanced. She lifted her hand, forming a fist and punching out into the air. A huge boom resonated out in all directions. Moon Hyo immediately tumbled backward and picked a random direction and sped off. His face was grim. He could see that Ji Hongdong had seen through him. He didn't point it out and immediately pursued Moon Hyo because of the Bang girl. Instead of saying something, he planned to come after Moon Hyo later, alone. The walls continued to fill the cracks. Although Moon Hyo was unsure how long it would take until they completely crumbled. He slapped his bag of holding to retrieve the good luck charm. He pressed it down on it, after which a frustrated look appeared on his face. For the first time ever, the good luck charm was powerless to teleport him away. I can't place all the hope on the collapse of this place, thought Moon Hyo. He knew full well that before this place fell into pieces, he had somewhat of a chance to flee. However, once the collapse was complete, if Ji Hongdong came after him, he would be in a very bad position. Ji Hongdong's status, his place in the fearsome Ji clan made it as such. If he were killed, it would be equivalent to deliberately evoking monolithic disaster. Moon Hyo wasn't sure if the Violet Sect would even fight back. The two powers weren't even on the same level. His face was grim. Moon Hyo continued on for a bit less than that it takes a half of an insect to burn. Finally, he gritted his teeth and stopped. Sitting down cross-legged on the ground, ignoring the crumbling of the walls around him, he began to meditate, rotating his cultivation base, pushing it as fast as possible towards core formation. Regarding of anything, I will be only able to seize the initiative after I reach core formation. A bright glow appeared in his eyes. This was the moment of crisis, leaving him little time to think things through. He closed his eyes and spit out a mouthful of mist, which immediately crackled the light as it surrounded him. At the same time, a halo of colored blood emerged from Moon Hyo, and a blood clone materialized and began to guard him. Moon Hyo's 10 dial pillars emitted a warning sound that only he could hear. Massive amounts of violet kai poured forth, causing the dial pillars to begin to melt and merge together. After the dial pillars fully melted, he would be able to form his court. Thanks to the immortal kai, this process would happen much more quickly. Once Moon Hyo reached the core formation, he would set the record for the fastest person to do since ancient time. Time passed by. Moon Hyo wasn't sure when Ji Hongdong would come for him. However, it would happen quickly. He was sure that Ji Hongdong had picked up on the clues. Once he shook off the youth Bang woman, he would be coming for Moon Hyo. Must go faster, thought Moon Hyo, circling all the power within his cultivation base. Suddenly, a shocking war filled his mind. His 10 dial pillar was now melted. As the dial pillar melted, vast quantities of violet kai poured out, wrapping around the ground the collective of violet mist which already existed from the mortal kai. The globule of violet mist rotated rapidly, emitting countless strands of violet kai throughout Moon Hyo's body. A brutally powerful kai appeared within Moon Hyo. His physical body grew more and more powerful. His spiritual sense expanded, and most obviously the blood clone and the blood death world he was within slowly began to grow stronger. As his true self grew stronger, so did they. Moon Hyo wasn't satisfied, though. The speed was too slow. Veins bulged on his face as he pushed everything into rotating his cultivation base. Amidst the warring, his ninth pillar began to melt. More violet Kai poured out. The violet mist globule rotated even more rapidly. It was now showing signs of condensing into a core. Next, his eighth dial pillar, then his seventh. They melted one after another, filling him with rumbling booms. Boundless spiritual sense exploded out, causing the violet mist to whirl at even greater speed. It sucked in violet Kai. At this moment, Moonhail's body was emitting a bright violet glow. The globule of violet mist spun at high speeds, all signs pointing to it forming into a violet core. At this moment, seeing this, Moonhail quickly consumed a large amount of 3 mortality pills. It still wasn't enough. Moonhail could clearly sense that he was immensely close to core formation. Even faster, thought Moonhail with his inward growl. A thunderous noise could be heard as his sixth dial pillar, fifth dial pillar, and fourth dial pillar all melted. It was at this time that off into the distance Moonhail could hear a loud noise if someone was using a magical technique. It was not Ji Hongdong, thought Moonhail. He was focused on rotating his dial pillars, but he had long since sent his spiritual sense out in the area. He immediately caught sense of a figure making his way towards him at high speed. Moonhail sighed inward and opened his eyes. The distance was Li Dongyi, wearing a thoughtful smile. Catching sight of Moonhail, he gave a smile and said, "I was wondering who it was, fellow Diets. He wanted me to for sure integrate. So it turns out it's Grandmaster Huang." He slowly approached. As he neared, he suddenly stopped and gasped at Moonhail. "Core formation guy? You picked this moment to form your core?" He laughed, his expression filled with sneer. "You really live up to your reputation, Grandmaster Feng," he said. "Very audacious. However, you took something that belonged to fellow Dietist. Gee, that's a no-no. The mere sight of you fills me with the desire to kill. Make a move against me? You'll cause a war between the Li clan and the violent Fate sect," said Moonhail coolly. His expression was the same as ever. He was a race against time. His cultivation base was rotating rapidly, causing his remaining 3 dial pillars to begin to melt away. I would of course never attack you," said Li Dongyi. Moonhail sighed. "I would of course never attack you," said Li Dongyi with a hypocritical smile. "I just blocked your way. Make sure you stay behind and don't leave. Your life doesn't belong to me, but rather fellow Dynasty. The clan's patriarchs will be more than happy to allow something like this to happen." He lifted his hand, extending it towards Moonhail's forehead. Moonhail sighed. It seemed he would not be able to make his breakthrough at this moment. Killing intent glittered in his eyes, and he was just about to make a move when suddenly his face flickered. At the same time, Li Daoyi's face also changed. He spun and then dodged aside. Just as he did, a clear, melodious snort rang out. Filling the air, a blend of white light flashed through the spot where Li Daoyi had just stood, then shot after him. Next, a prismatic beam shot toward him, coming to stop next to Moonhail. There, wearing a white robe, facial expression icy cold, was Shu Chen. She glared at Li Daoyi. "Make your breakthrough," she said calmly to Moonhail. "I'll take care of him." Her voice was cold, but as her words made their way into Moonhail's heart, they transformed into a gentle warmth. The Ji-Yu's expression was one of unyielding pride. His words were aloof and remote. He didn't seem to think Moonhail was even worth looking at, and spoke to him as he might a servant. Moonhail frowned. However, he thought of the fierceness of the clan, as well as the fear Anzai had shown. He thought about everything he had experienced.